Hello, Mid-Atlantic Episcopal District and the AME Zion denomination. This is your boy DK coming to you just to give you a bit of my best practices and some of the tips and the tools that I've learned over this entire COVID crisis. It's definitely helping us to think ahead and to be able to prepare so that we're able to make better decisions when we're doing our production. You know, there's pre-production, there's production, and then there's post-production. If we take more time working on the pre-production, then I believe that the production will go smoothly and our post will be even easier. When you're thinking about live streaming and thinking about video conferencing, you have to begin to organize your event. So that's where we want to begin. How do I organize all of these things and work in the pre-production mode of the entire event? So let me take you into some of the questions that I would ask somebody if they came to me and tried to consult to put on their event. Here we go. Here are some of the questions that I would ask you in order to organize your event. Who's your audience? Who are you trying to communicate this message to? Who are going to be the people that are watching this when it's all said and done? You want to think about when. Are we competing with other things going on at the same exact time? Are we competing with other ministries that are even going on at your church? So think about it. The Clark Sister movie that was just on last week. If we think about putting on our service at the same time that was going on, you might not have the numbers that you were expecting. So keep that in mind as well. And then we start to get into demographics. Now, you might not know the exact number of people that you anticipate tuning in, but you have an idea from when you were able to go into the church or wherever the space was, how many people would have actually shown up. And then if you combine that number with the number that was looking online when we were able to go out, then you might get a range as to understanding how many people might be viewing your event. And then amp that up a little bit too, because people are home right now. They have nothing else to do but watch your event, which is a good thing. Another question I like to ask is how many people are participating in the actual event? You might have your worship leader, your psalmist, you might have all these different people, including the pastor who might be delivering a sermon. Now, all these people have specific roles throughout the life of a service. So as a host, you need to know how many people are going to be working this event with you and how many people you need to designate responsibilities to on the back end in order to control the event itself. I need to know when I need to unmute this microphone. I need to know when this person's video needs to have a spotlight on it so that we're all watching one person at one time. Your age demographic means a lot. And with your age demographic comes people that have high tech and low tech. So you need to know if your viewers are able to tune in on a website, if they're able to tune in on social media, or if they could just pick up the phone and do a good old-fashioned phone call if that's the way that works for them. Then I ask, what platforms are you already using? Do you have a following on YouTube? Do you have a following on Facebook? If you've already built up a following on those platforms, then yeah, you might want to just tap into that audience that's already there waiting for the good content to come out. But if you need to start from scratch, you need to be thinking ahead to say which platform is the best one for you. You might not have a great following on Facebook. You might have a better one on YouTube or vice versa. Or maybe none of your people are wanting to touch social media at all and they really just want to go to a website. Or like we said, it could just be a good old-fashioned phone call that most of your viewership and your demographic in your church, your ministry, your people, your event are going to want to do. You have to figure that out. And that comes from the data that you get from putting on your events. Okay, now all these questions right here, it takes a little bit of work. So you might not get it on the first time. It might take you a while to really get that information that you need to begin to understand where your destination is going to be as far as your video conferencing or your live streaming. But with the work that you put again in the pre-production, your production will go a lot smoother and you'll get better results on your post-production. Okay, so that's it. We've organized. We are dealing with our pre-production and we are now good. Let's go over a few of those things. We have our what. What is the event? What are we doing? We have our when. When is the event happening? We have our who. Who are we trying to reach? Who are the people that are going to be viewing this when it's all said and done? So how many people are participating in the event is huge. It could be as small as a Bible study or it could be as big as a worship service that's spanning the entire denomination. This is going to help you decide what platform you're going to use, which we're going to get into later on. So that's it. That's your pre-production. You've organized your event. Now let's get into the production. Now this is when you are about to go live, when your event is actually about to happen, when it's about to begin, when you're about to hit that little button in the corner that says go live, this is it. This is that moment. All right, but how do we get there? What are some of the key elements that we need to get there? You definitely need your hardware. Your hardware is your equipment. And you also need your software. Your software are the systems and the applications that you're going to use in order to get your live stream or your video conference to the internet. Let's talk about some of the equipment that's needed for the production. You have your basic cell phone. Now you can take your cell phone and you can use that, and that's kind of a one-stop shop. Just do me a favor and hold it horizontally as opposed to vertically when you're recording, and use it in a 16:9 format, which is pretty much how we view everything today on television. Now, with your cell phone, you're going to get sound, which is coming from every direction unless you have a microphone attached to it. Now, you can pick one of these up on Amazon and plug it right into the back of your phone, and it'll help you a little bit with some of the sound issues that you might have. Please invest in a tripod for your cell phone or your mobile device in order for it not to be so shaky when you're recording. Now, if you don't want to use your cell phone and you want to take it up a notch, now we're talking about a computer with a webcam built in already. Now, most laptops today already have webcams. So you can pick one of these up, literally open up the laptop, download the applications needed, and begin to stream immediately. The computer is going to be able to do two things. It's going to be able to pick up your sound from the internal microphone, and then it's going to be able to pick up your video from the internal camera. So for some of us, the cell phone and or the computer might be our best option. But those that want to take it up even another level should invest in an actual video camera. Now, there are hundreds of cameras that are out there for you, but trying to figure out which one is best for you and your ministry might take a little bit of research. COVID-19 is not going to be here forever, so you need to be thinking ahead as to figuring out which one you can use now and later. There are also plenty of tripods out there for you to choose from. Just have to figure out which one works best with the camera that you decide to go with. Now, the computers that we were talking about earlier were the one-stop shop, but you might want to invest in a more powerful computer if you plan on just doing live streaming from that device only. Look into getting a computer with great processing speed and a lot of space and only doing your live streaming. This computer also needs to be able to be hardwired. It's key to doing a proper video conference or live stream. Being able to go off of Wi-Fi is just not a reliable way to do your production. Having a hardwired connection is the more professional and more trustworthy way of making sure that your event goes on flawlessly. Invest in an Ethernet cable, plug that into the back of your router, and then connect that directly into your computer so that you can cut down on most issues at the time that you plan on going live. Microphones come in all shapes and sizes as well, but you pick up one that's going to be able to sit discreetly on your person or be able to put on a microphone stand right next to you while you do your production. This is going to help your sound tremendously. It's going to improve the quality of your production in total. Now, the last thing that you might need based on the platform that you're going to be using is an encoder. An encoder is a device that sits in the middle of your camera and your computer. It makes the video and the sound acceptable for the internet. Let's talk about the hardware one more time. You can go with a cell phone. Now, a cell phone might be your best bet. It's definitely budget friendly. Now, you can also go with a computer. Now, a computer, all-in-one solution as well, and it has a camera that's built in with the microphone as well. Now, you can take it up a notch and invest in an actual camera. Now, if you invest in a camera, you're going to need a tripod. With the camera and the tripod, you're going to need a few more things. You're going to need that encoder, which is going to sit in the middle. You're going to need some miscellaneous cables, some HDMI cords, possibly some SDI cords. And then from the camera, you're going to take that signal, go into the encoder. From the encoder, you're going to go into the computer. And then from the computer, you're going to go live to your following. Oh, and don't forget to pick up that microphone. It's definitely going to help with the sound and the production quality as a whole. Okay, now we're still in production mode. Now we need to figure out what kind of software we're going to be able to use in order to couple with the hardware in order to get it to your viewership. Now the software are the applications, the systems, all the things that you need to get to the destinations that you need to go to. So let's talk about basic software strictly for live streaming only. Now, these applications I'm about to speak to you are what you want to use in order to go straight for live streaming and not video conferencing just yet. You have Facebook Live, which is going directly live on Facebook. You have YouTube Live, which is going directly live on YouTube. You have Wirecast and Ustream and Livestream and Twitch and StreamYard, Boxcast, Ustream, vMix. Using these softwares are the ways that you are able to reach your following and get to the destinations that you want to go to. Now, each one of these softwares has its good parts and its bad parts. Take, for instance, we want to talk about Facebook. Now, you won't be able to view Facebook Live unless you're on Facebook. So if you don't have an account, you're not going to be able to see it. But if you wanted to talk about going live to YouTube, that might be a better option because you don't necessarily need an account in order to view a YouTube Live. Now, if you want to make your stream look aesthetically pleasing, I'd say StreamYard, Wirecast, these are some of the softwares you want to go with to make it look a lot better. You have the option to use lower thirds, put your logo in the corner, and even have Twitter updates pop up on your screen while you're streaming. Now, these things are really cool. I would definitely use some of these softwares if I had an online viewership only. All right, but your viewership is bigger than just online. You have to accommodate for people that are low tech, as we said earlier in this program. Now, those that are low tech, they're going to probably want to connect with the one thing that we all use on a daily basis, which is our cell phone or even our landline. So being able to accommodate for those that are listening and seeing requires a video conferencing software. Video conferencing is a little bit different than live streaming. Hence, we come to the almighty Zoom, which is so popular right now. And then you have a few others like GoToMeeting or WebEx, and I'm sure there are a couple that I'm not mentioning right now. But listen, they all do the same thing. They're video conferencing softwares, and they take the audio that you can listen to the event and they combine it with the video that you're hosting for a meeting, and they're putting it together so that you can listen and view everything that's going on in the life of your production. Now, if you could figure out how to get good quality video into your Zoom or GoToMeeting and then be able to let people listen to it in addition to seeing it, then you've hit all cylinders. We'll talk a lot more about Zoom in a minute, but I wanted to be clear about the difference between video conferencing and live stream. Now, instead of the actual device that I spoke about on hardware, there are some things called digital encoders. OBS is out there, and you can use that as a digital encoder to convert your signal properly so that it's acceptable for the internet. So if you can get your camera, whether it be a DSLR, whether it be a webcam, whether it be the internal camera on your computer, or even a pre-recorded video, you can ingest it inside so you can make it acceptable so that you can stream on all those different softwares I just spoke about. XSplit, Wirecast, there are also encoders as well. So you can take the signal and be able to convert it so that it's acceptable all on your computer for the internet. All right, so wrapping up software, you definitely have a whole bunch of systems and applications that you can use for your live streaming, and then you also have a bunch that you can use for your video conferencing. You have to figure out which one is best for you in your specific event. I'm a fan of video conferencing right now because we need to accommodate for those who are never going to get on the internet, that need to pick up the phone and call in, as well as those that are high tech and can view the actual service that you're doing. Okay, so we spoke about pre-production. We talked about the beginning part of production. Now let's go a little bit more into the production phase, which really deals with destinations. Now, if we talk about a destination, we're trying to figure out where your viewership is actually going to see your content. Now, you can liken this to getting into a car and driving to an actual destination. You have many different options with different pizza shops, from Domino's to Pizza Hut. Figure out which one you want to go to and then get there using the equipment that you have, your car. All right, so a few destinations. I spoke about them earlier, but let's reiterate it again. You have Facebook, you have YouTube, you got Instagram, you can even go Twitter if you want to. You have a website, which is a key one. You have to figure out if your viewership is going to not be on social media, but be more apt to going on and finding a website and a web address or a URL in order to get to your content. In addition to being able to go to one of these at a time, there's a thing called simulcasting, where you can go to multiple ones. Now, there's softwares out there like Switchboard and Restream, where you can ingest your footage into those softwares and splits it across multiple platforms concurrently so that people can view it on all different social media sites and your website all at the same time. Now, these are really cool. If you can reach your demographic in multiple areas at the same time, I suggest you do so. We're still in production mode. We just spoke about destinations. Now, we talked a little bit earlier about software and hardware. But now let's get into your set design or your setting, or what I like to call your mise en scène. That's a film term that's used when we're talking about your setting and your surroundings within the life of your frame. So keep in mind that everything behind you means something. You want to make sure that your scenery is not distracting to what you're doing in the front. So whether you're using a cell phone, your laptop, or any type of camera, you just need to make sure that you have a beautiful background behind you that's reinforcing everything that you are talking about. So I chose to put some cameras and a laptop back there so I can look kind of techie while I do this to you. You see how I thought about that? Now, look out for y'all. So get yourself a tripod if you're using a mobile device. Be able to put your cell phone or your tablet inside a tripod and have it secure while you're doing your recordings. Hold it horizontally and make sure that it's close enough to the subject so it's not too distracting with all the dead space behind them. With still using your cell phone, let's not tilt the camera up too high so that we have too much headroom. And let's not cut the person's head off by having it too low. Just right where you can kind of see the person's body and it's just enough headroom on top. Use this frame as an example. The same thing with a laptop arrangement. Now, I've seen a bunch of you that are looking down at your laptops. Your laptop camera should be eye level. So whatever you have to do, be able to lift and elevate your laptop so that it remains eye level. Now, you might have to put some books underneath it or whatever it is, as long as it's not the Bible, just make sure that you can keep it at eye level so it looks like you're looking directly at the viewer. Your webcam can sometimes sit on the side of your laptop, or it might sit right on top, or it could be on a totally different tripod. Wherever it is, make sure that, again, it's eye level so that you can look directly at the webcam and be able to communicate effectively and look into your viewer's eyes. It's going to build that connection and make it a much deeper and richer experience for everybody watching. Okay, so your lighting and your sound is also very, very important. Now, your lighting is not just for you. It's for your background as well. Make sure that's lit too. We need to see everything that's going on behind you, and it needs to be very, very discreet. No distractions. Now, making sure that we can actually hear you is also important. So a microphone, whether you have a lavalier that you can put on you, or you have a microphone that you can put on a mic stand and have close to you, as long as it's out of the frame of the camera, is a good bet. So here's a tip. If you can invest in an actual microphone that connects to your computer in order for you not to use your input microphone on your computer, that would be the way to go. Your microphone on your computer is acceptable, but it picks up everything in the room. You want to be able to get the good sound that's coming directly from your voice. If you're trying to get that clear sound, you're going to want that microphone on you and then connected to your computer. It's an investment. You should do it. Let's be mindful of our surroundings while we are producing our content. Now, if you're doing pre-recording, or especially if you're going live, you're going to want to be in an area that has nobody talking and the sound is down to a minimum where you can focus in on your viewers. Having distractions, people coming from all different angles, kids, barking dogs, phones that are ringing, all these things kind of diminish the importance of your production. And you want people to focus in on exactly what you're saying. So just think about it ahead of time. All right, so lastly, I want to talk a little bit about Zoom. I know it's one of the top applications that most of us are either using or considering using right now. So I wanted to dive in on some of the best practices that I've encountered while I've been using Zoom. So Zoom is a video conferencing software. However, with that video conferencing software, Zoom has the ability to go live on Facebook. So if you click that little live stream tab that's in your settings, you have the option to go Facebook Live, YouTube Live, or even to a website. That's the power of Zoom, and that's why everybody is considering using it. It's still keeping those that are low tech involved with calling. It's still giving people that are high tech the video possibility. And those that are in the life of your service can all meet, talk, share, screen share, and do many different things at the same time. So with Zoom, you create a meeting. With that meeting, you make an invitation. With the invitation, you give it to your guests. Your guests can be invited via video or they can be invited via phone. If you choose to, you can invite them both ways. Another good tip is to think about how many people you actually want to have video-wise on the back end of your Zoom, actually participating in the service. You might want to only have those listening on Zoom and then use the Facebook Live or YouTube Live function or the website function to go online so that people can view it that way. If they do that, then you can keep a controlled environment on your Zoom and not have too much confusion. The less people video-wise for you to have to host, the better for you. All of the participants need to be able to turn on their microphone, turn off their microphone, show you that they know how to screen share, which is an icon at the bottom of your screen that's in green that allows you to show your entire desktop or portion of it to your audience. Have your participants prove to you that they know how to function things even if you're not the host, so that it'll go smoother in case anything goes wrong on the back end when the actual time comes to go live. Zoom is catching up to everything that we're doing these days, so the infrastructure might be overworked. So it's important to test. I would test at the same time as the event or maybe the day before, just to make sure everything runs smoothly. In addition to the screen share, there's another good function that allows you to annotate. Now you can highlight certain things on your screen, maybe circle them, point an arrow at it. All these things are great and emphasize parts of your presentation that you might need during your presentation. As a host, you need to get familiar with the spotlight video. All right, so you can go into what they call grid mode, or you can go into speaker mode. Now, if you're in one of these two views, that's fine, but you take a risk there of somebody unmuting their microphone, if you allow them to, of course, or just making some type of mistake. But if you spotlight your video on one person that's talking at one particular time and pay attention to when the next person needs to go, that might be the best option, just so that you can control the actual service. So the flow kind of goes like this for me. I am constantly knowing what's going to happen next. I am thinking about who's going to speak next. I am spotlighting the video on the person that is talking at the time. And then when the next person is about to talk, I am unmuting their microphone, taking the spotlight off the person that preceded them, and then allowing the next person to talk. Once the speaker begins to talk, the camera changes, and then I spotlight that person who was talking so that the focus is on them only for that moment. Now on Facebook and YouTube, when you're streaming, the spotlight video is the only video people are going to see. That's why it's so important to get familiar with it before you think about going live on one of those platforms. Another great button that you need to get familiar with is the mute all button. I know some of us have had challenges on conference calls where we're not able to mute everybody's microphone, or some people just take themselves off of mute and it interrupts a great prayer that's going on. Well, you have the option to mute everybody on Zoom at one time. And if you need to, you can unmute whoever you need to mute if they're participating in the life of the service. You are the host. You control everything. These are powerful tools that you need to be familiar with and test ahead of time. Another great tip is enable your waiting room. Now, I had struggles with this myself, so I'm being transparent here with you guys. In the beginning, I wasn't having a waiting room, but as I went on, I realized that we need to prep before the actual service begins. So a half hour before, I would tell all the participants of the worship experience to come on, enable my waiting room for those that are not participating in the worship experience. And then before we go live, or before the service begins, and even if you're not live, you're just hosting a meeting on Zoom, you would then allow those people from the waiting room to join the actual meeting, so they can hear and they can listen like everyone else. There's plenty more I could go into about Zoom or other applications just like it, but if you need more information, contact a professional. That's what we're here for. We know what it takes to host these events, and if you call on us, maybe we can help you out in those manners. All right, we did our pre-production. We did our production. All of those elements as far as set design and your destinations, your software and your hardware, all of that were a part of your production. And now we're going to talk about your post-production, which is just as important. Let's talk about getting that data, that good information that you need in order to make your next production even better. So, how do we do this? You might want to incorporate an email blast, a survey, trying to figure out exactly what people are experiencing and how they're experiencing. You might want to pick up the phone and actually call some of your members to see if the clarity was good on the phone call, to make sure that they can actually hear everything and they knew what was going on and when it was happening. You need this good data from your people to understand and to be better for the next production that comes up. You'll never know the points that you need to improve on if you don't reach out to your congregation. So using these techniques that I'm talking to you about, in addition to going on the back end of your applications and your software, you should be able to access real good analytics, or just the data that you need to know whether people are viewing at a high rate, how long they're viewing, and all the other good quality information in order to make sure that you can be better for them next time around. This is so important. It lets your viewership know that you care about them. You're actually communicating with them on a weekly or bi-weekly basis to find out if their experience has been great. I appreciate your time, and I know there's so much more that we could talk about, so I'm leaving my information at the bottom of the screen. If you need to contact me for anything, questions, comments, let me know. I'll be able to help you out. We'll get through this together. Stay safe and stay blessed.